Hey, I'm Josh Hines, and I'm reading from Heroes of Exile, Chapter 7, called Motor Eyes. Previously, Night Watcher, our resident superhero, he's moping in the gutter after failing to save someone who didn't want to be saved, and he gets invited on an adventure by Druid, a magical superhero. Druid invites Nightwatcher to a meeting in a pub with a group of cyborgs, two of whom Nightwatcher met in the bathroom doing drugs and making fun of him while he was trying to pee. The man he met in the bathroom is 4 feet tall, older, and has a braided beard and a lamp in place of an eye. The woman has a spiked steel mohawk. Nightwatcher is in full face mask, and Nightwatcher then joins the meeting where there's these two cyborgs and five more. A cyberpunk collage glared from the rounded booth. A mix of mohawks, metal limbs, safety pins, band patches, flesh-piercing tubes, and ripped vests. Most of their eyes, or scrapyard refuse subbed for eyes, bored through my chest to my spine. The man and woman from the bathroom bookended the semicircle. Him, fist folded on the table, beard braids brushing his thighs, feet kicking in the air. Her, legs crossed over the bench's end, bending back, black polished fingers under her chin, her crystalline irises half hid below a narrow brow. She leaned against the dusty-faced man, her steel spikes spilling blood where they jabbed his neck, without protest from him. I slumped, wishing to melt to a puddle around my stool, and prayed I wouldn't puke in my mask. Drew departed to order drinks, suggesting we play two truths and a lie to break the ice. The ice stayed, the game unplayed. The only two who didn't seethe with reflexive hatred were at the far side of the circle. A man near in age and height to beard braid bowed his head, his left eye a cloudy crimson circle of glowing glass and a collar of iron, his frizzled and dry hair clouding his face, his nose cherried red, resembling a Terminator Santa on a Vegas bender. He scratched a notebook, dipping a fountain pen into an inkwell he held in a vice grip that substituted for a hand. The young woman to his left, with the disordered, flopping mohawk, fixed a staring squint, framed by green bangs, at the stack of coasters she'd cut to strips with tiny scissors protruding from her pinky, which was hinged at the back middle knuckle. So what's he doing here? Rumbled the ebony woman beside Beardbraid. Her dreadlocks of bundled barbed wire were dipped in pink paint. Don't know, said Steel Mohawk, but he's got a shy bladder. Not much of a costume, said Pink Dreadlocks. Beardbraid clicked iron fingertips on the table. It's like he dressed from a lost and found in a kink club. The man behind Steel Mohawk leaned on his elbows. His camel-colored pork pie hat shaded a face layered with scruff and dirt. Maybe he's... You know how they say druids went around with teenage boys? The man Pink Dreadlocks had her arm around snickered. His chiseled cheekbones, airbrushed milky complexion, and chin-length brown hair matched a voice like a baritone during warm-ups. You're thinking of the scholars of ancient Greece. Pork Pie shrugged. When in Rome. That makes no sense. Steel Mohawk cranked her head to Pork Pie, a spike tip scratching the upholstery. What does that mean? Means, Pork Pie said, peering past her. We take off that mask. We see Druid side pieces and old enough to drink. He pees like an old man, Beardbraid said. My face flushed and my spine melted, but I didn't run, for fear they'd chase me. It was hard to go when you were both... Beardbraid bared his teeth. Were we talking to you? I kept my palms flat on my lap. It's just that... But why bring a superhero at all? Pink Dreadlock said. Reflexive stars semicircled her raised eye, a line of tattooed black curved cheek to cheek over her nose bridge. Steel Mohawk stroked her chin. You know how heroes stick together. I dropped my heels on the floor and rose. I met my day's quota for abuse. I think I'm going to. Great to see you getting along. Druid was right of me, balancing four pitchers on two arms, his staff behind him, bottom end up, and stacked with pint glasses. What did I miss? Beardbraid took the nearest pitchers off Druid. Why are we here? Druid placed the other two jugs on the table and distributed glasses. Humans have been asking that since the dawn of... You said you had an update on the professor, Beardbraid barked. Oh, right, said Druid, filling the first glass. I'd forgotten. I kept thinking you'd called the meeting. The table of cyborgs waited, arms crossed, as Druid dumped heady beer into mugs, appearing to not feel the glares. I put my hand up like it was math class. Who's the professor? Steel Mohawk plucked a flask from her back pocket. The genius who transformed us from boring normies to the sexy pieces of ass and rebar we are now. She poured into the beer a green fluid, sweet-smelling, like antifreeze. He's missing. Well, said Beardbraid, pulling a pocket tin of motor oil from his coveralls and dumping it into his drink, stirring with his iron-rotted index finger. We need to go over a few things. Drew dropped onto the empty stool, his mustache tipped white with beer foam. Let's start with introductions. You've met Rowan and Silver. He open palm gestured to Beard Braid and Steel Mohawk, my bathroom friends. My gaze lingered, briefly, on Silver, tracing the bulge of her clenched jaw and her long, tense neck. Next to Rowan is Weld, and then Gleam. Drew had pointed over the dwarf to pink dreadlocks and cheekbones, who linked arms on the table. He pointed to Vegas Santa, who tapped his pen to count syllables on a page. Rusty's the poet. Vegas Santa jumped at his name. What? I was listening. He lifted his notebook, blocking his face. What's another word for semi-phallic? Cheekbones. Gleam. Pursed his lips. Dickish. Rusty's one eye rolled up, his grizzled beard rustling like cotton in a breeze, and placed a notepad down. That works. Tinker's the one building the, I want to say, lighthouse? Drew gestured to Green Bangs, who crafted coaster strip into a round, flat foundation. Finally, Gristle. He waved at Pork Pie, who saluted with 2 fingers. Rows of shiny strips lined his cheek skin below the dirt and days of facial hair, like a dumpster dive circuit board. Gristle raised bare arms, revealing the underside slits like air vents, emanating scents of sweat and rust. Welcome to the human zoo, mate. This was the friendliest, or the least hateful thing anyone had said to me. Their names triggered latent memories. I knew I recognized you. You're the anarchist cyborgs. I've seen you in... Intro's done, sorcerer, said Weld, her pink dreadlock shaking. Out with it. We'll get there, Druid said, refilling his beer. Beard Braid, or Rowan, held up his half-finished, oil-darkened lager. We're not patient. The best way to say something is to be direct. Really? Druid cupped his chin. I thought the best way to say something is by first dangling a mystery, then slowly resolving it in non-linear stages. Huh? Silver's face scrunched somewhere between confusion and menace. It's called narrative structure! Weld popped a cigarette in her mouth and raised an arm-mounted welding torch, the nozzle molding from her wrist. She turned a dial on the back of her hand and the nozzle spat flame, lighting her smoke. Should we vote on beating the info out of them? Rowan pinched the end of Weld's cigarette. We're not a democracy. I give the orders, and I order us to beat it out of them. The compartment on his forearm opened, and an industrial-sized drill rose with a hydraulic whine. I bounced my stool away from Druid. I'm not really in on the... Druid rose, raising his staff, the gem brightening. You all need to hear me out. He's right, said Gleam, snatching Weld's extinguished cigarette and dangling it from his lips, graduating from merely handsome to ruggishly ruining my self-concept as a straight male. We didn't travel all day for a bar fight when we have plenty of bars near home. Let's listen. Thank you. Druid clasped hands and bowed. Then we'll beat them up, Gleam said. Weld caressed Gleam's face. It's hot when your violent side comes out. Druid's eyes circled the cyborgs. I want you to go on an adventure. The cyborgs groaned or struck the table. Fuck that, said Silver. Gleam shook his handsome head, bangs waving. You must know that we're not interested in your superhero conventions. I raised my hand again. Are you not superheroes? The cyborgs laughed, including Rusty, though only when he heard others laugh. Tinker showed no reaction, her coaster tower eclipsing her lower face. Do we? Russell slapped his knee, raising a dust cloud. Do we look like superheroes? Druid leaned towards me and grabbed my shoulder. They were never certified due to the rigorous demands of testing. We, Gleam conceded, don't test well, as a group. Silver nodded, a backspike punching a new hole in Gristle's pork pie hat. On account of hospitalizing everyone who tried to make us take a test. Druid wrung beer from his mustache. Meaning that their quests don't count as official adventures, they're not protected by the Costume Vigilante Act, and if they're fighting a supervillain, any certified superhero can take over. He took a seat. Fascists, Gristle grunted.